You leave me with one installation of an operating system for 6 months and I am going to screw it up. Hey, what's up guys? I'm Jacob Kaufman. I'm here on the street, and today, this is an exciting development. As you know, life on Linux has officially ended. So, to replace Linux, because, well, let's take a step back. First of all, why am I uninstalling Linux anyways? Well, I am used to installing a new, installation or distro once every couple of weeks. And I've had this installation for 6 months. So as you can imagine, a lot of things tend to pile up, just like on Windows, but even though it's better on Linux, you know, things are going to pile up, you know, files, settings, logs, just random things are going to kind of clutter up the system. So I've had this for 6 months, and of course, as you can imagine, it has gotten much worse than other things that I've only had for a couple of weeks. A few examples of things that are messed up. First of all, I have a weird screen resolution issue where my widgets actually don't go below half of the screen. They only go on the top half of the screen because, I don't know, it's something to do with the new display manager, and I recently upgraded Kubuntu from version 12.10 to 13.04. And I really usually discourage upgrading. I encourage just installing the new version, wiping out the old version, but of course I couldn't do that because I was using the same installation for 6 months. So yeah, weird screen resolution issue. Also, I have been messing around with my audio settings, and as you should know from one of my previous videos, Linux uses the Pulse Audio sound server by default, or at least Ubuntu-based things do. And I have, as you have probably also could tell, I have some headphones plugged into the front of my computer, and I have these speakers plugged into the back. And the speakers plugged into the back actually don't, no sound goes to them whenever the headphones are plugged in. So, and I know that I can set it up in Windows to where, like, my Skype call will come through the headphones, but, like, my Minecraft sounds can come through the speakers. But I could not figure out how to do that by default in Linux, so I started messing around with some of the system files, and I generally discourage doing that as well. So, yeah, now I have screwed up sound and weird display issues, and yeah, it's just honestly getting a little bored of Kubuntu, so we are going to go ahead and move on. Now, I know I did mention building a Hackintosh, or at least installing Mac OS on this computer. But I needed to reinstall Linux, and I don't like doing a reinstall of the same distribution. I went to distrowatch.org, and I am going to take a step out of the Linux realm, but I'm not installing Windows or Mac OS. What's this, you say? First you tell us that there are more operating systems than just PC and Mac. Now you're saying there's a fourth one? That's right. This is based off of Unix as well, or at least it originally was. Neither Linux nor this are based off of Unix anymore. They are both Unix-like operating systems. But Linux distributions, there's a common Linux kernel that is used in all Linux distributions. But then there's this other kernel, too, that some other ones use. It's a bit more proprietary, but it's still free, and it is called BSD. Stands for Berkeley Software Distribution, and yes, that is referring to Berkeley University, which was where the Unix-like operating system was created. So yeah, I have attempted using BSD in the past, and I even recorded a video of attempting to set that up. Well, the version of BSD I was trying to install was kind of the standard. It's called FreeBSD, and that, yeah, is the standard for BSD. But it was kind of like trying to install, like, Slackware Linux. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure if Slackware is the right distro, but basically, it gives you the kernel and the package manager, and you have to sit there with the terminal and set everything up yourself. Now, don't get me wrong. I got it working eventually. I am literate enough to do that. However, I basically had the bare minimum for a usable system. I mean, I had KDE, I had no internet because at that time I didn't have a router in my room, and there were no BSD drivers for my wireless card. So, yeah, just no internet alone, you know, you can't really use that. But now I do have an Ethernet cable plugged into my computer, and everything else seemed to work very nicely in BSD. It was very fast. Now, I know that a lot of you are not likely to install something if you have to set it up in the console. However, if you do want to play along at home, as I hope you might have done with Life on Linux, I am going to be installing something called PC-BSD. It is based off of FreeBSD, however, it comes with a fully graphical installer. If you even read the little blurb on the website, it says, PC-BSD is a desktop operating system based on FreeBSD. Rather than having the user build their own environment from the base operating system, PC-BSD aims to make the FreeBSD experience easy and achievable for the average casual computer user. Whether you need quick access to email or a free and open source gaming system, PC-BSD is the desktop for you. So, as you can hear, these guys obviously tout themselves as being user-friendly, just like Ubuntu does. So I'm going to install it. It does come with KDE by default, which I was looking for, because just like Linux in general, I honestly thought that I liked GNOME better at the beginning of this, but now, even though I may go back to GNOME eventually, I think I've really grown into KDE. So yeah, we're going to be using a KDE desktop environment. So basically, let me just sum this up for you. PC-BSD, when I install it, is going to have the same desktop manager as Kubuntu does, KDE. So it is going to have all the same programs. It is basically going to be the exact same experience. What's the difference then? The core of the operating system. Completely different. If you think of, let's say, if you think of Fedora versus Ubuntu, they're both Linux distributions. So even though they look different, they're the same thing underneath. This is basically the exact opposite. Both of these run with the KDE window manager, so they look like the exact same thing. However, underlying systems, completely different. I would almost venture to say that, not from a technical standpoint, but from a beginner's standpoint, Linux and BSD are as different as Linux and Windows are. So, on the underlying system, once again, it's going to be the same experience. So, as you can probably tell, I'm not really sure about this whole BSD thing. I know that it's faster than Linux the only other time I used it, so not a whole lot of numbers there to back me up. But yeah, I am going to go ahead and install PC-BSD. So I'm going to go ahead and start now. Sorry about this long rant, but I like to introduce what I'm doing so you know there's a point. So yeah, let's get started.